I had stolen about $5,000 from my father, and I was spending around $300 to $400 a day on crack and heroin. And at the end, what I did was I wanted to take my life. The plan was that I was either gonna kill myself on the way to the bridge, either into an oncoming car, like on the expressway, or run a median or something, or I was gonna get to the bridge, the Walt Whitman Bridge, and I was gonna jump off. And I figured it would have to be quick because where was I gonna leave my car? I would have to leave it in the middle of the road. So I knew that it would just be jump out the car, and I'd be off, and that was gonna be it.
It never stopped till all the money was gone. And we ended up selling our house, and Mike's family did an intervention on him because, like, I was still the victim that was prescribed the medication from the doctors, but Mike was stealing it, so I was still playing that role. And one day, someone came knocking on our door, and they said, and they left a card, and it said the Division of Youth and Family Services in Pennsylvania, and they were like I knew why they were coming to my house, and I couldn't stop. Like, they were coming to drug test us, and I never went to the drug test, and I couldn't stop. And they took our kids.
I had started going to abandoned houses and, like, really staying in there. And I lived right around the corner. I remember there was this abandoned building in 5th and Dickinson in Philly. And now I know that I'm HIV positive. And I can remember being on the 2nd floor of that building. And I can remember wanting to die.
My sister, who's younger than I am, she's 20. She's actually in a rehab right now. Not because of the prescription drugs, but because of where they led her. She started out, addicted to, back in high school, she was addicted to Xanax. And then from Xanax, that led to, she was able to stop them, and then she went to Percocets. Percocets led to Oxycontins. And from there, now she ended herself up in rehab because, for like the past year, she's been shooting heroin. She knew that if she started to detox, or if she was running out of manipulations or scams, that she could go to the hospital and get the doctors to give her the drugs. And she went to the point where a couple years ago, she had them so fooled that the doctors thought that she needed to have her gallbladder removed. That was the problem. That was why, she was so-called in pain. She had her gallbladder taken out. And after the gallbladder was taken out, then she conned them into giving her prescriptions to go home with. She's me 2 years ago. And it's hard to take a look at yourself sometimes, especially when it's that bold in reality.
Towards the end of my addiction, my last week when I was using, I wanted to die. I did not want to live anymore. I couldn't. Every night when I went to bed, I would pray that I wouldn't wake up.
I was a beautiful person, and I had morals and values and a great life and a mother that loved me. And I couldn't stop. And I was ridiculously pathetic on drugs. And it made me somebody I wasn't and never wanted to be, and I couldn't stop. My daughter was in a crib in the room I was sleeping in. I was smoking crack out the window. I had a nightmare, and I ran down the steps, ran as if I was running off a cliff. And I fell down the steps in circles and just plastered myself into all my parents' furniture and broke it. And then that's when they took me to the psych ward the next day.
She was an amazing woman. My mom was the mom who would pull up to the driveway bumping Nas on the speakers, and with the pink streaks in her hair and the nose ring and all that stuff, when the other moms in town had mom jeans on and all that stuff. She told me that it started with taking a Percocet. She took a Percocet, and she was just amazed at how amazing it made her feel, and how her problems and the stress in her life, she wasn't worried about it. It didn't matter. When it eventually took her life, she overdosed on fentanyl. I was in homework help club, this after school thing with my kids, my students, and I was helping someone with their homework, and I got a call on my cell phone. And I normally don't pick up numbers that I don't know. I let it go to voicemail, but for some reason I just picked up, and it was her boss. And he said, you know, this is so-and-so, and your mother just overdosed of fentanyl, and I don't think she's gonna make it. So I just got in my car and drove directly to the hospital. And then 2 days later, she had died. It was when I was in the hospital and just kind of laying there and sitting there because I didn't want to go anywhere. That's when my thoughts really started to, you know, really started to go everywhere and realize that I didn't have what everybody else has anymore. You know, I don't have a mom. And it's awful. Like, you think about, like, you know, like having your first kid or any of that stuff, and she's not going to be there for that. She was my best friend. Like, we talked every day, every single day. So it's just, it's hard not to have that anymore. I miss her so much. I don't know, like when people say that they would give anything for like 1 second, like I totally know what they mean.
Young people are abusing prescription drugs because mainly because of their availability and because they're effective. The availability means that folks are going into medicine cabinets and they're getting it from physicians at an alarming easy rate. You wouldn't see someone who, or the people that we see that are in treatment programs or even coming looking for treatment programs are not your perhaps Bowery Bum, Skid Row type individuals. These folks are college students. These folks are mainly between the ages of 18 and 25 years old. That's our major population as far as those folks are using illicit or prescription drugs illegally. Once the prescription drugs are no longer available, such as either because their dealer is no longer providing them, but they're going to seek alternative drugs that are going to give them similar effects, such as if they're addicted to pain meds. It's very likely, and there's a high probability, or what we call a high risk factor there, a high chance that they're going to pick up heroin. They're going to use heroin in place of. The truth is individuals do fall in love with the feeling, do fall in love with the process of getting the substances, and very few do remain drug-free. And again, what we use as a barometer sometimes, or as a benchmark, is 10%.
The disease of addiction is lonely, cold, dark. It's something I wouldn't wish on my biggest enemy.
In the end, it had taken everything from me. The feelings that it originally gave me in the beginning, that the raciness and the I can be anybody and do anything feeling, took all that away. I felt like a shell of a person. I couldn't cry, and if I did cry, it was uncontrollably. But they weren't over true feelings. They were over self-pity. It was over anguish for my life of where it had gotten me. The shell is just, you get caught in a cycle. There's no living involved. It's just existing. They opened that door, they kept me beat down, and they kept me from achieving the dreams that I wanted to achieve. In fact, they didn't keep me. I gave that to them. I gave that power to them. And today I have taken that power back.
I do think prescription drugs were like the downfall for me, because it was a feeling that I had, that I took, that it was okay because it was legal, and it was and that's the truth, and it was prescribed by the doctor.
It's better to, you know, be silent and thought a fool open your mouth and reveal that you are one. Stop making excuses. You know, there is hope. You know, join the hope ship, and not the drug or the dope ship.
They're not to be taken lightly. They're just as dangerous, if not more. Don't let the bottle with the doctor's name and the pharmacy on the bottle fool you. Those drugs are, if not worse, in my opinion, but at least as bad as the drugs you get on the street.
I feel like the way it is now, that prescription drugs are being sold on the street and street drugs are being sold on the street, I feel like all drugs are equal and all drugs are the same.
In the time that I have been clean, you know, from drugs and alcohol, from not popping pills, you know, there's been a drastic change, spiritual change, a dramatic change in my life.
As hooked as I was on drugs, I was hooked to getting clean. Like all of a sudden I started listening, I started opening my eyes, opening my ears, didn't want Suboxone, didn't want anything. I wanted to get clean.
You know, my father and I never had a relationship because of what the drugs put between us. You know, my father was always sober, and you know, a sober man and an addicted man don't mesh well, because I never knew that life could be this much better without drugs.
You know, although I've been clean for 14 years, there's sometimes when I'll see a big sign, you know, that'll have a beer that looks real tantalizing, but I know that all I have to do is think about where I came from and where I'm at today and the consequences, and I consider all those factors, and I don't want to give up what I have today to go back to popping a pill.
I've been in recovery for 2 years and 11 months. And I surrounded myself where I was able to meet beautiful people that were also in recovery. And they showed me how to live, and they helped me to get my children back.
First of all, you do not have to walk the path that I walk. You don't have to be this mask and pretend to be something that you're not.
I've become a different person because everything I ever worked for in my entire life, I destroyed, and it was all taken from me. So when you get back water and toilet paper and the basic needs to live, you become grateful.
Just because you get clean does not mean that you're not going to experience traumatic experiences. It doesn't mean that, you know, life is going to be full of roses. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to want to revert back to, you know, using the pills to cope. It doesn't mean that. Just because you get clean, just because you stop using drugs, it doesn't mean that. But what it does mean, that if you apply yourself to the program, or whatever you apply yourself to, there is a big possibility, there's a real big chance that if you just hang in there, a miracle's gonna happen.
Everybody has their bottom, everyone has their pain. And the hope is that when the pain gets great enough, no matter who you are or how great your pain is, there's people out there that have had the experience and that can help you, and that there's freedom from using drugs.
If you or someone you know is abusing prescription drugs, talk to somebody. Get to a 12-step program such as Narcotics Anonymous. Reach out to a professional and get help.